Itagaki, if I recall this battle at the Bonari Pass, it was the moment that marked the end of the Edo period and the bridge to a new era. That is certainly true, Mr. Saigo. Can you tell us more about the situation before the battle started? Of course, after the Great Restoration in 1867, Tokugawa Yoshinobu returned power to the emperor, but the remnants of the shogunate were still in power, and they did not easily yield to the new government. What were the moves on the part of the new government at that time? The new government was moving armies around the country to eliminate the remnants of the shogunate and to renew the country. We, the Tosa clan, joined this movement as a member of the new government. And that leads us to the Battle of Bonari Pass. Yes, in 1868, the old shogunate forces started marching north and there were several clashes with the new government forces. The Bonari Pass was one of them, and we, the new government forces, intercepted the old shogunate forces. How did you use the terrain? The Bonari Pass is a strategically important place, and if we could suppress the pass, we could greatly restrict the enemy's movements. We held the key points of the pass in advance and blocked the progress of the old shogunate forces. What was the state of the old shogunate army at that time? They outnumbered us, but the morale and organizational strength of the new government forces overwhelmed the old shogunate forces. They were out of control and were gradually outnumbered in battle. How did Saigo-san conduct himself during the battle? I inspired my men on the front lines and directed them to apply pressure on the enemy whenever possible. I also took the enemy by surprise by daring to attack at night. We have heard that the night raid was successful, but what exactly did it look like? During the night, we divided our small force and snuck them into the enemy lines. They succeeded in disrupting the enemy positions and inflicting heavy damage. What was the situation of the former shogunate forces after the battle was over? Many of the old shogunate forces were either killed in action or forced to retreat. This further solidified the superiority of the new government forces and paved the way for the Meiji Restoration. It was a battle in which Saigo-san's leadership had a great impact. It was not my strength alone. It was the result of the combined efforts of many comrades and soldiers. Itagaki, you were also one of them and contributed to this victory. Thank you very much. But we also understand that this victory is only one step toward building a new Japan. That's right. We will continue to face challenges, but as like-minded people, let us build the future of this country. Yes, let us continue to work together to create a new era. The Battle of Bonari Pass is a battle that showed that we can move forward no matter how difficult the situation. Let us use this as a springboard to even greater heights. Saigo, I believe that the background that led to the Battle of Bonari Pass was more than just a confrontation between the old and new regimes. What does that mean? Explain it in more detail. First, it is well known that the remnants of the shogunate continued to resist after the Great Restoration. However, it was also greatly influenced by developments in other countries. What exactly do you mean by foreign influence? After Perry's arrival, the shogunate was forced to open the country, but this led to instability in the country. Even as the new government rose to power, Western pressure remained a major problem. So, in order for the new government to gain a firm foothold, it was imperative that the civil war be brought under control. That is exactly right, and the Battle of Bonari Pass was the decisive battle to bring that civil war to an end. I see. But why did the old shogunate forces continue to resist so much? For them, the new government was still unestablished, and it remained to be seen how Kiki would operate after the Tokugawa family relinquished power. Were Kiki's movements inspiring the remnants of the shogunate? Yes, they were. Many were also distrustful of the movements of Satsuma and Choshu, including the Tosa clan. Could this be due to problems within the Tosa clan? Indeed, even within our own Tosa clan, the conflict between the Kino faction and the Sabaku faction was intense. This was also a factor that prevented the clan from acting in a unified manner. Nevertheless, in the end you showed unity as a new government force. How did that change come about? This was because the unification of clan theory was urgently needed, and the respect for the Suno faction, which gained momentum after Ieyasuke's assassination, succeeded in taking the initiative. You think Ii's assassination even influenced the policy of the Tosa clan? Yes, that incident became an opportunity for many samurai to promote the principle of reverence for the emperor and expulsion of the barbarians. But the victory at the Battle of Bonari Pass changed everything. It established the authority of the new government. That is correct. The victory at the Bonari Pass succeeded in further solidifying support for the new government. Itagaki, I am curious to know how a young man like you felt on the front lines. We young people were burning with a sense of mission to create a new era with our own hands. The battle was hard, but we never doubted that it was all for the sake of a new Japan. That is certainly a strong belief. But did you ever feel doubt or fear in the fight? Of course, there was fear and anxiety. But more than that, we were motivated by a cause that would affect the future of our country. Itagaki, your words convey a strong sense of hope and determination for the new era. That led to your victory in the Battle of Bonari Pass, didn't it? Yes, it was all for the stability of the new Meiji government and a bright future for Japan. Itagaki, time has passed since the Battle of Bonari Pass, and now once again, how do you see the impact of that battle on the new government? Saigo, at the time I was just focused on defeating the old shogunate forces, but looking back now, I feel that that battle solidified the legitimacy of the new government. Certainly, the battle strengthened the authority of the new government. But it is also true that it created a deep rift with the supporters of the shogunate. That's right. Victory was necessary for the new government, but I now believe that subsequent efforts for reconciliation and integration were even more important. I too am acutely aware that the post-war process was quite difficult. In particular, the question of how to deal with those who lost was especially heavy. Yes, perhaps we should have shown more tolerance in that regard. Because the building of a new era required the cooperation of all the people. Even after the fighting was over, however, domestic stability was not easy to achieve. Many grievances remained, which became a challenge for later politics. It was also a major challenge faced by the new government. Political stabilization required many measures to overcome the upheaval at the end of the Edo period. Yes, we did. Our victory was not just the overthrow of the old regime, but also the starting point for bringing the country together. There is no doubt that the victory at the Battle of Bonari Pass boosted the morale of the new government forces and became the driving force behind their later policies. Besides, through the battle, we had the opportunity to teach leadership and responsibility to many young people. I would like to believe that this has helped Japan in its later development. Indeed, the experience that these young people have learned in battle is invaluable. They are the future of this country, and I hope that their experience is put to good use. Itagaki, can you tell me how your experience in that battle influenced your later political activities? The Battle of Bonari Pass taught me the gravity of taking the helm of the country directly in politics. In particular, I feel that the experience was of great help to me in promoting the liberal civil rights movement. Our responsibilities did not end after the fighting was over. Throughout the post-war process, we faced many more challenges, and we had the opportunity to grow as we dealt with them. That's right. The political developments after the battle were a new challenge for us and a further step toward the modernization of Japan. Itagaki, what do you think was the most difficult aspect of that battle? Itagaki, decisions made on the battlefield always carry a heavy responsibility. In the Battle of Bonari Pass, my decision took the lives of many young men, and it still weighs heavily on my mind. Saigo, I feel that pressure as well. However, without that battle, the foundation of the new government would not have been so solid. Our decision was made with the future of our country in mind, even if it involved necessary sacrifices. True, but every time I close my eyes on a post-war night, I see the faces of these young people. It is not as if I have deprived them of a future they wanted to live more. I understand their anguish as well. But they fought for a new Japan. We must not let their sacrifice be in vain. It is our duty to carry on their will. It is not as easy as it could be fulfilled, even though it is a duty. Itagaki, how do you feel in the political arena? Don't you think the sacrifices for change are still being made? The path of change is indeed a hard one. Every day is a test, and we are constantly asking ourselves if the path we have chosen is truly the right one. However, I believe that the path we should follow is the one pointed out by our predecessors. We should hold on to our beliefs, but sometimes we are driven by the suspicion that they may be nothing more than self-justification. This feeling is especially strong when politics is faced with difficulties. Doubts can also lead us to wiser decisions. Mr. Exigo, your thoughts are important for us to constantly question whether we are choosing the right path. Still, I wonder how much a battle plays on people's minds. The pressure to always think of the next move, without being carried away by victory, is also great. Even after the battle, it is not the end, but a new beginning. That is what politics is all about. We cannot help but feel the weight of how our actions will be evaluated by future generations. What I am more concerned about than the reputation of posterity is whether our deeds are really benefiting the people. It is especially a relief to see that the lives of the common people are improving, but there is still much that is missing. The happiness of all citizens is a goal that cannot be achieved overnight. However, I believe that doing what we can do now to the best of our ability is the first step toward this goal. The suffering and death we saw at the Battle of Bonari Pass, they continue to push us forward. We will have no choice but to continue to build a new Japan with these memories in our hearts. Yes, that memory is our compass. Together, Mr. Saigo, let us continue to move forward for a new Japan. Itagaki, what are your thoughts on the impact of the Battle of Bonari Pass on our society? Saigo, this battle not only immobilized the legitimacy of the new Meiji government, but also triggered major changes in society as a whole. In particular, we believe that the progressive collapse of the status system is of great significance. That's right. The old status framework of samurai, peasants, and townspeople had effectively lost its meaning, helping to promote the construction of a new nation-state. On the economic front as well, the concept of land ownership and use changed when the former shogunate lands were reorganized by the new government, did it not? This led to the later reform of the land tax system. Indeed, the redistribution of land was a factor in transforming the economic base. The battle also spurred the new government to accelerate its policies to further promote the Meiji Restoration. On the cultural front, the post-war westernization policy is remarkable. Western technology and thought were introduced, and the modernization of Japan proceeded rapidly. The trend of opening the country to warfare has certainly had a tremendous impact on our culture. But not all of it was positive. That is an important point. The introduction of Western culture has been controversial, and there has been some resistance, especially from those who value tradition. The process of incorporating the new does not always go smoothly. The clash with the old values has presented us with a major challenge: the fusion of the old and the new. The battle was also politically significant. Although it established the authority of the new government and temporarily resolved the conflict with the supporters of the shogunate, deep-seated problems remained. Even if the battle had resulted in a temporary victory, the process of reconciliation and integration that followed was actually more difficult. Many of the people were suspicious of the new government. The reception of the people would have varied greatly from region to region. In rural areas in particular, the difference between areas that were more loyal to the new government and those that were less so was striking. Regional differences are indeed a major problem. The new government needed to ensure equal development while taking into account the realities of each region of the country. Considering the impact of this battle on the entire nation, it was a very important incident in terms of national unity. Perhaps such a battle was inevitable in order to build a unified national identity. However, it is always sobering to know that so many sacrifices were made in the process. Sacrificial change contains many lessons to be learned by looking back at history. It is our responsibility to apply them to our future policies. Itagaki, how do you think we should pass on what we have learned through this battle to the next generation? One lesson is that transitions of power should be peaceful. Another is the importance of respecting the diversity of cultures and values and striking a balance between the old and the new. The balance between old and new sometimes requires difficult choices. But those choices pave the way for the future. I would like to believe that through the battles we have learned to choose more wisely. The experience gained in the fight is indeed important. We must make use of it in the future and strive to build a better future. History will decide how our actions will be evaluated. However, it does not change the fact that we will continue on the path we believe to be the right one. In our search for the right path, our role is to always learn from history and leave it as a lesson for the future. Itagaki, many years have passed since that battle, but there are things that can be told only now. Saigo, I feel the same way. Perhaps above all, it is our duty to share the truth of the battle. In the midst of battle, I always chose to be on the front lines, but we must not forget the countless sacrifices that were made behind the scenes. I still occasionally dream about that sacrifice. I feel again that it was a heavy price to pay for the battle. Itagaki, what do you think of the tactics we took, especially the night raid we decided to launch? The night raid was a tactical success, but the enemy is also our people. Now I sometimes wonder if we should have explored more avenues of reconciliation. Certainly, seeking a path of reconciliation was one option. However, you should also understand how difficult that would have been under the circumstances of the time. I understand that point. However, if there had been more flexibility in the post-war response, the disconnect with the shogunate might have been eased a bit. I certainly should have thought a little more about how to respond after the war. That was one of my blunders. Saigo, I am sure we both did our best. However, it is history that does not always bring the best results. Yes, history is sometimes harsh. But we have stood up to it. We need to continue to hold ourselves accountable for it. We should always remain aware of how our actions are affecting Japan today. Itagaki, the decisions you made in that battle made Japan what it is today. We can be proud of that, but we must not forget to reflect on it. Mr. Saigo is right. Our role is to pass the baton to the new generation with both pride and reflection. Itagaki, we must make sure that what we have experienced and learned is passed on to the young people, who will shape the future of Japan. To this end, we should use our experience to help illuminate the future. The lessons learned through battle are sometimes hard and painful, but they are part of the truth. We must accept the truth, learn from it, and apply it to the next step. This is the mission entrusted to us. Itagaki, this conversation was important for both of us. It is because we have overcome those times and those battles together that we are able to talk like this now. Yes, Mr. Exigo. And we hope that through this conversation our experience will be shared with many others. We thank you, our readers, for taking the time to read this long dialogue. We hope that our experience has contributed in some way to your understanding. And I hope that this piece of history will provide new insights to your minds. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. How was it? This video is automatically generated by AI. I'm not quite there yet, but if you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you for watching. What did you think? This video was automatically generated by AI. We still have many areas to improve, but if you don't mind, we would be grateful if you could subscribe to our channel.